How's it going, everybody? By now, everyone who plays one of the two big 4v4 modes should be aware of the importance of minions. Both in Dominion as well as in Breach, they play a vital role when it comes to winning the match. Be it as a point battery in Dominion or as a big nuisance in Breach, they certainly do their job. I've made a guide about the importance of the Minion Lane in Dominion, so feel free to check that one out, as the scoreboard is not telling the whole truth. Minions are worth a lot. But that's sadly not all. They're also the cause for a lot of frustration. These little clowns have ruined many a match, and sadly for various reasons. I'm sure everyone has experienced these issues at least once, and I think it's about time that we address these. Spelling them out should be a good first step. I've identified a couple of issues that I think are currently more detrimental to the game than they add value. Feel free to add your own in the comments or disagree with my reasoning. Some of these points are certainly up for debate, and arguments can be made for as well as against them. But let's just start with the one that probably annoys players the most, and I doubt anyone will say they want to keep it. Guard breaking minions while being locked on to another player. It seems like that during the last few months the frequency of this happening has increased. I can't really say what might have caused this, whether it actually does happen more often or it's just that we perceive it to happen on a more regular basis. The one instance where it happens the most, I think, is when you try to heavy feint to GB and your opponent dodges while being a certain distance away. Instead of tracking the dodge, your hero just mindlessly grabs the nearest minion. The frustrating part here is that the GB would have tracked if it weren't performed in the minion lane. The range and tracking of GBs has always been a complete mystery, and while it probably follows a very simple rule, aka it tracks if the person was in range during the time of the input, we do see almost point blank whiffs as well as 5 meter slides forward to grab someone. Because we see both of these extremes, and not even all that rarely, the minion GB is just the icing on the cake. It seems like it breaks that very rule that causes all these other funny interactions. The discussion regarding this topic always revolves around the fact that minion GB exists in the first place. I don't think it's a problem per se, but rather the fact that it happens when it really shouldn't. Minion targeting while out of lock has been used for a while now to make clearing the lane easier or to get an unparryable attack and angle it accordingly. This minion auto-targeting also being a thing for GBs when out of lock seems to be completely fine. I don't think that's an issue. The issue comes from it happening while clearly locked on to another player. Under no circumstance should the game ever prioritize anything but the player we're locked on to. It's even almost impossible to GB someone not logged on to, even if you perfectly align the character models, yet minions somehow magnetize towards the character's sweet embrace. I don't think anyone's ever planned to utilize GB in minions. Maybe if someone quickly realized what just happened, a throw towards the opponent can somehow save them. Just to make this perfectly clear, I think this one is currently the most frustrating one, and I don't think anyone would have an issue if GB in minions while locked on got removed entirely. Moving on to an issue that's very subtle yet very annoying, especially for players that play the mid clearers. Minion corpses form invisible barriers that won't let you pass. If you've never experienced this yourself, just load up with the minion matching customs, pick a character that can kill multiple minions at once, then try to move through the corpses on the ground. Within a few tries you will immediately realize what I'm talking about. Again, this can be extremely frustrating, especially since you can never tell when it's going to happen. There is an absolute clear path in front of you while nothing that should obstruct you, yet a see-through wall stops you from disengaging, or just rotating, or simply moving to the next batch of minions to kill. Why you move is irrelevant, it's the fact that the game won't let you. It might be very brief, but I can guarantee you this got you killed more than once before. We know that to make things disappear, UB likes to shrink the asset so it's invisible. It can be seen on some executions when it spawns additional props, you can call them I guess. Maybe minions work the same way and they're shrunk down, yet still count as a barrier. Whatever the cause may be, this needs to be looked at and fixed ASAP. It's been a thing for so long that most people probably stopped complaining about it by now. Next thing might be a little subjective. Well, I don't think many people really enjoy it, but the argument can be made that it's an intended feature. I'm talking about the stubborn little minions at the side of the lane that simply refuse to give up the point. You can have multiple minions in the middle of the lane already, it simply won't go to neutral until these little bastards at the very side are dead. So we did do some tests. It requires exactly one minion to hold the lane. and it requires 3 minions to capture the lane. Next test was then to see if 4 minions would capture the point from the 1 minion. Well, this is how it went. While not necessarily an issue in itself, that the lane first needs to be cleared before it can be captured and that it requires a certain amount of minions to capture, it doesn't tell us that anyway either. I don't think anyone bothered to do this before Snap. The discrepancy between lane holding and lane capture could be considered one. In our testing environment here, it's completely clear what's going on, but we specifically manipulated minions on each side to get the required scenario. In actual matches, this stuff can happen randomly. Most likely even more convoluted scenarios where you have multiple minions fighting in the middle of the lane already, while a single minion is holding the lane. But one thing we also observed is that minions do back off from players unless they severely outnumber them. All these conditions play a role here, and the minion behavior itself feels pretty natural. When they engage, when they run away, when they start to fight, it is very fitting. On the contrary, the lane capture feels confusing and frustrating. I don't know whether Ubisoft frequently revisits minion behavior, especially in regards to lane ownership. There could have been many changes that we just never noticed. To sum this point up, I wish that lane ownership to be a reflection from minion behavior. Maybe proximity to the line would work. I don't know, maybe I'm creating more problems than I'm trying to fix here. So we're moving on to probably the weirdest interaction. The minion cheer and the extra attributes they gain with it. We often see clips of strange behavior of heroes when fighting among minions. The easiest to recreate is the falling down of Lawbringer when a parry puts him out of stamina and he gets hit by a minion that just cheered. Why this is the case, we have no clue. It's probably an overshadowing issue with the Lawbringer, how he can be parried by teammates and all that. I linked to the videos where I explained this in the past. The other problem I have as footage is the interrupt of a shaman bite. All in all, the cheering animation, while a neat little thing to indicate morale of the little bastards, I don't see the need for it to have any other properties. Now, 2 more things that everyone fighting in the mini lane has experienced already, albeit not necessarily the consequences. First of all, the multi-parry with minions, you get multiple parry flashes. From what we can tell, it doesn't shorten the animation, or rather can be cancelled out of the same way as you can when you parry multiple players at the same time. If any one of you can recreate this, please let me know how. The other problem comes from simply blocking. You all should be familiar with block stun. You block an attack, which means you're stuck in this blocking animation for a specific amount of time. Depending on the attack, this reaction can last for a short or a longer time. Block stun can get overwritten when you multi-block. If you block a heavy and then a light immediately afterwards, the heavy block stun gets replaced by the light one. Now, minions can do the exact same, which, as you can see, can even allow you to GB someone in recovery. The example shown here is an opener heavy, so he could have obviously chained the attack, but if this was a finisher, then I'd get a free GB. Then we have minions and superior block dodges. Valkyrie and Jianhu can use them off minion hits. Especially on Valkyrie, the range is abysmal, so the chance of it hitting is rather low, but if someone is really hogging you alongside the minion lane, might as well give it a try. Jianhu's, well, no comment I guess. Tiandi's doesn't work as it's another attack. Same goes for deflects. You might see the animation, but you can't input the actual punish. We've only done it here with pikemen as it's easier to see and we were double checking, but this works with the normal Dominion minions as well. But while we're here in Breach, might as well quickly mention it, the core combat changes will bring damage down, so let's hope this includes pikemen as well as officers. For crying out loud, 40 damage attacks on officers. Whoever thought that was a good idea probably never bothered to actually play the mode. This needs to come down, drastically at that. Breach will suffer a lot otherwise. Heroes can't kill pikemen as quickly as they can now, so they will ultimately take more pokes from them. To not make this an absolutely excruciating experience, I hope the appropriate measures will be taken. But yeah, that's it for the big minion issues at the moment. Some might be a little subjective, yet most of them quite annoying. Even if some are considered features, maybe those need to be looked at one point in time. Minion GBs probably rather sooner than later. Let me know if you have any additional complaints or if you're okay with how it currently is. I hope the video was helpful. Thanks for watching. Laters everybody. What is this, man? Is he crazy? I'm playing Nusha against a fucking LB.